You know how life has a way of testing us in ways we never imagined? We make promises to ourselves, draw lines in the sand, and swear we'd never cross them, until one day we do. Today, we unravel a story about betrayal, not from the outside, but from within. It's the kind of betrayal that shakes you to your core because it's a betrayal against everything you thought you stood for. This is a journey of a man who became the very thing he despised the most: a cheater. His story starts with a promise and ends with regret. Welcome to Fractured Bonds, where every story reveals a deeper truth. I have always hated cheaters. I despise them so deeply because I've seen firsthand the devastation they cause, not just to the relationships they destroy, but to the individuals left behind in their wake. One of my earliest memories of this kind of pain was through my best friend, the first real friend I made back in kindergarten. We grew up together, and when he fell in love for the first time, I watched how much he adored the girl. They were inseparable. But as with many stories of young love, it didn't last. She cheated on him, not just once, but with at least 7 different guys. The damage was catastrophic. My best friend, once full of life, became unrecognizable. He was broken, shattered beyond repair. The betrayal ate away at him until he became terrified of trusting women again. His despair eventually consumed him. At 19, he took his own life, unable to bear the weight of the hurt any longer. From that day on, I vowed to myself that I would never, ever become like those people who cheat. I distanced myself from anyone who had cheated on their partners. I even ended friendships with people I had known for years if I found out they had been unfaithful. Cheating, to me, was the ultimate betrayal. Fast forward to 2013. I was 21 and studying at a school for adults who wanted to work in healthcare. It was during this time that I met her. Let's call her Emily. She was 22, the younger sister of a friend of mine who was also in the same program. From the moment we met, sparks flew. We clicked in a way that felt so natural, like we were meant to be. We started dating, and before I knew it, we were engaged just 6 months later. Looking back, it all happened too fast, but at the time, it felt like destiny. We had a good run, but after 5 years together, the cracks started to show. We had a massive argument, one that would change everything. Emily had become convinced that I was sleeping with one of my coworkers, a lesbian, no less. This was a woman Emily had met many times, someone she knew was in a committed relationship. But jealousy has a way of warping reality. Emily couldn't shake the feeling that something was going on. The constant accusations and mistrust drove a wedge between us until finally, we broke up. But it wasn't just jealousy that ended our relationship. During those first few days after our breakup, Emily had started talking to a guy on Facebook. It was obvious to anyone with a pair of eyes that this guy was after one thing: her. For days after we split, we met up to talk things through and try to fix what was left of our relationship. That's when she dropped the bombshell. With a small, almost triumphant smile, she told me she had met up with this guy the very same night we broke up. They met in a parking lot in his car, and according to her, they made out. She claimed that was all that happened, saying it ended when he stuck his hand down her pants. I wanted to believe her, but the alarm bells in my head were deafening. More than anything, I was furious. Not just about what they did, but about the fact that she went to him the night we broke up. That hurt more than anything else. Still had to her back. Against my better judgment, I thought we could work things out. But our relationship was never the same after that. We limped along for a few more years, full of screaming matches and accusations, until we finally called it quits for good in 2022. The constant tension, especially over my female friends, was too much. Emily never trusted me, despite knowing that my industry is female-dominated and most of my friends are women. During the worst of our fights, I began to spiral. The constant stress and the emotional toll of the relationship started to affect me in ways I couldn't control. I began cutting myself. Nothing deep, just shallow cuts on my arms. It wasn't about wanting to die. It was more about releasing the pain that was eating me alive. The scars were small, barely even visible now, but at the time, they were a way of coping. When Emily saw the cuts, I thought she might show some compassion, but instead, she berated me. That was the final straw. We broke up and I tried to move on with my life. But somehow, we found ourselves drawn back to each other earlier this year. We started dating again, though we agreed to take things slow. We weren't exclusive, at least, that's what we told ourselves. Yet, we kept falling into old patterns. Cooking together, walking our dogs, spending nights together. The lines were blurry, and while we hadn't explicitly said we were in a relationship, it sure felt like one. Then, 2 days ago, everything fell apart. Emily invited me over to her place, a 1.5-hour drive. We had tacos, and she fell asleep not long after. It was barely past 7 p.m., and I was annoyed. Here I was, making all this effort, and she was asleep. I tried to watch a movie but got bored. I tried to sleep, but I couldn't. So I left. I ended up meeting up with my best friend, 32F, to go out and party. You can probably guess what happened next. We drank way too much, and before I knew it, I was waking up in her bed. We had slept together. The worst part is I remember everything. There was no blackout, no lapse in memory. I was fully aware of what was happening, and I didn't stop it. Me and my best friend, someone I've known for years, someone I never had any interest in romantically, slept together. And now, I'm left with this sinking feeling in my chest. I've become the very thing I've always hated, a cheater. Sure, Emily and I never explicitly said we were exclusive, but we both knew what was happening. We were falling back into the same patterns, as if we were together again. And now, I've crossed a line I swore I never would. Now, I'm just trying to figure out how to face her. How do you tell someone that you've become the very thing you've always despised? How do you confess that you're now carrying the weight of a betrayal you never thought you were capable of? I've become a cheater, and I hate myself for it. With this, the story comes to an end, but the journey doesn't stop here. Thank you for exploring the stories that shape us. If you enjoyed this one, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content like this. See you again soon.